The Founders of Hogwarts, Part 1, Episode 5. Written and performed by Amanda K. Skelton. Inspired by the Wizarding World of Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. Fade in, Interior Court of Academics, afternoon. Rowena sits in the middle of a much larger courtroom. The Speaker of Academics, Lord Nordal, sits front and center, higher than the rest of the other 9 members. He shuffles through a stack of parchment, his temper rising with each page. Salazar enters from the end of the row, his posture stiff, his mood tart. Him and Rowena make friendly eye contact as he sits down. The members of the court remain quiet. Insert a quick shot of a handsome wizard with slender long limbs and deep green eyes watching the proceedings. We find out later this is Samwith. Rowena shifts in place, impatient and anxious. She sighs. May I ask why the court has received my presence today? Nordal speaks. Quiet, Lady Ravenclaw. The court has not recognized you yet. Addressing my title and surname is recognition by the court. Nordal throws her a threatening look. Hold your tongue, or I will hold it in a jar. Rowena swallows, edging back into her chair. She steals a look from Salazar. He throws her a look to behave. Nordal continues. Lady Ravenclaw, you are hereby suspended from teaching at Southbank School for the Enchanted. Her mouth falls open, stunned. Quiet chatter lines the courtroom. Excuse me? Nordal lays on the condescension. You are no longer permitted to teach. I know what the word suspended means. Its origin is Latin, meaning from below and to hang. My failure of understanding comes from why you are suspended me. We have received word from the infirmary that during a lesson, one of your students was left to burn at the stake. The court gasps quietly at the news. He failed the assignment, but it was not my intention, Nordal shouts over her. You do realize, as a teacher appointed by this court, it is your job to conduct lessons in a safe and secure environment. My job is to teach and prepare. The student's job is to learn and pass, and your job is to protect the students from possible dangers. The courtroom breaks out into loud whispers. Order! Order! That is where their money goes, into security, which this court has deemed far more important than, say, new manuscripts or quills. The Crown considers the security of our world far more important than wasteful trinkets, like providing guardians for all lessons that are exercised outside of the magical walls. You are aware of what the guardians are for. I am. And you are aware that you must summon one when venturing out. Rowena rolls her eyes. I am, and not on one but several dozen occasions, you have failed to inform specific guardians to assist your teaching. How many times have you been caught and tied to a stake to be burned? You are not the one asking questions. What was it, 4, 5 times? 6. Nordal throws an incredulous look at Salazar, but he could care less. 6 times. Helpful was your training, yes? Was there a safety net for you when you were being judged and tortured? Was there a guardian passing by ready to help you? No. You could have escaped blindfolded with your wand tucked behind your ear. You, she has the entire board, may provide protection, but I teach it. You are a danger to our students. Professor Drangle poisoned one of his students last year on purpose and was fined for the damages. Master Mylor split 2 of his students in half, sending them to the infirmary, and he wasn't even summoned to court for punishment. Lady Ravenclaw, quiet. Furthermore, I will take more precautions the next time. I demand your silence. But I can hardly be punished if a student is not fit to be taught. Silence rings out, and Nordal shakes with anger following her last words. My son will not be held accountable because of your indolence. Rowena bites her words back, forgetting the connection between Petra and Nordal. Let me ask you this, why did you save the redhead? She wasn't a witch, I wasn't going to let her die. But you were a wizard, a student. I went back for him, but you didn't save him. Someone else did. You failed as a teacher, Rowena, and you risked exposure of our world when you saved a muggle and left a wizard to die. Your methods have proven sinister, and our decision is final. You are suspended from teaching in Britain indefinitely. But before Rowena can object, Nordal pours wax on her contract and seals it with a heavy crest. The paper glimmers back for a moment as the ink sets in. He strikes the gravel down on the table, and it's over. Cut 2. Exterior academic courtyard, afternoon. Rowena coughs and holds back angry tears as she rushes past several large sculpted bushes in the shape of magical creatures. Rowena! I know what I did wrong, but I can't. That horrible, rotten son of a... He suspended me. I know. It's a relief. A relief? I'm not allowed to step inside this school ever again. You could have been hanged or stoned or burned for threatening the secrecy of our world. A nameless woman in a gold dress passes by and briefly catches Salazar's attention. I'd rather be put to death and never teach again. Oh, don't be so melodramatic. There's more to life than academics and research. Just like there's more to life than gazing ambitiously at the stars. Salazar doubles his pace to catch up with the woman in gold, but she's gone. Rowena catches up annoyed. Are you even listening to me? He mutters to himself. Since when did women all start wearing gold? Sal, what's going on? What's wrong with your face? Sal stops, concerned. My face? Your face, it's smiling. Did you meet someone? No. You did. What's her name? She must be elegant beyond words to catch your attention. It's no one. I'm just happy you're not hanging by your thumbs. Nordal parades through with his assistant Allard close at hand. Rowena sees him and stands her ground, narrowing her eyes. Nordal smirks and walks in the other direction. I must go and not think about cursing a plague on his shirt. Cut to black. Fade in. Interior, Londonwick's Tavern, evening. Rowena plants herself on a far back square table. Her books and parchment lay aflutter. The barkeep approaches very cautiously. Hello, Professor. The usual? She nods, and the barkeep taps her a small mug of something coffee. Her lungs give a jolt, and she coughs phlegm into her hand. She searches her pockets for something to wipe, and pulls out a crimson handkerchief. She thumbs over the gold-embroidered GG, thinking of its owner. She finds a blank piece of parchment, crumbles it up, and wipes her hand on it. Then carefully folds the maroon handkerchief, tucking it back into her pockets. Cut to later. The tavern is now lively and crowded. A large group of men in maroon and black drink and carry on. Among them is Lieutenant Vance. Then Godric enters and a rowdy cluster of military men greet him. The captain has arrived. About damn time. What did you crawl back? What took you so long? Yeek! Get this man a fire whiskey and a leggy blonde. They toast to Godric, singing. Among the sea of beautiful men and women flirting with Godric, he notices Rowena sitting by herself, both sad and lost, staring at the same sentence, forgetting there's a flat peacock quill in her hand. Godric makes his way to her, ignoring the opportunities before him. You seem in need of a distraction. May I join you? No, you may not. Out of thin air, Godric draws up a chair and seats himself across from her, putting his feet on the corner of the table. Rowena glares at Godric, but he doesn't seem bothered. He just grins. She flips to a new page and begins scratching the feathered quill loudly. Godric skims over a few sheets. Studying Torvald's second law of transfiguration. Impressive for someone so alluring. She snatches the parchment from him. So, because I'm pretty, I'm incapable of being smart. No, I didn't mean that. Then what did you mean? She stares him down and he looks back at her, intrigued by her fearless conviction and sass. I'm sorry, I should start over. Look, I don't know who you are, but you're Godric Gryffindor of Wildmoor. It's a pleasure meeting you, Lady Ravenclaw. I assume that's your name since it's written at the top of every page. It's Professor. And like I said, I don't know who you are, but you're impertinent and intrusive. Really? You've never heard of me? Rowena rolls her eyes, not amused by his ego. He leans in. If you didn't want to be bothered, you'd be sitting somewhere quiet and scholarly. Instead, you're sitting in a tavern, which means you've either had a horrific day or you're waiting for someone. Rowena dips her quill and readies a new sheet. Both. Godric returns her sentiments. I'm sorry for your day. I imagine it will become considerably worse when this person turns up without ink. The quill scratches the parchment dry, and so is her bottle. Allow me. He holds her wrist with one hand and gently cradles the other under hers and blows onto the bottle. Dark ink magically fills the container. Rowena tightens her jaw, trying to suppress her astonishment. He doesn't immediately remove his hands, so she pulls away from him first. The wizards of Pamaya practice a similar form of magic, believe in the source of their power comes from the breath of their souls. Yes, they find it ridiculous that our magic involves gesturing with thin wooden sticks. He takes a drink. Rowena thinks. So did you steal their magical techniques before or after you slaughtered their king? He smiles. They taught us their magical ways after we liberated them from an evil wizard monarch. So, You have heard of me. Only of the destruction you leave behind. A voice calls off screen. Mother! Both Godric and Rowena turn their attention to the voice. In bounces Helena, followed by her chambermaid. Darling! Sorry I'm late. Who's your friend? Godric respectfully stands and snaps his fingers, conjuring up his floppy brown hat. Captain Gryffindor of Wildmoor. He bows with a flourish. I'm Helena Ravenclaw of Glen. It's very nice to meet you, Captain. She curtsies. The honor is all mine, milady. He flips his hat onto his head. The folds of his hat curl up into a thin mouth. Helena's eyes widen at the sight. Your hat? It just smiled at me. Did it? Then it must approve of your presence. Where did you find such an object? He hesitates just long enough to come up with a believable answer. It found me, but I'm sure it belonged to a noble king at one point. May I see it? Helena, don't pester. She looks at her daughter critically up and down. How was your trip? Quite lovely. A bit long. It didn't rain once. You should go with me next time. He misses you. Rowena brushes her daughter's hair back, containing her sudden sadness. Godric looks from Rowena to Helena. Who'd you visit? Rowena opens her mouth to speak, but Helena is too quick. My father in Glen. It's where he's buried. Godric's face falls at her words. Rowena shakes her head in disapproval at her daughter. They speak to each other in Old French. Translated. Helena, don't burden strangers with such sadness. It's very unbecoming. Helena replies, also in Old French. I'm sorry, mother. Now Uncle Sal is in his office. He'll be very upset with you if you don't say hello. She reverts back to her original accent. I'll be right behind you. Helena jumps from her mother's arms and begins to rush to the door, her chambermaid close by. Helena! The youngster comes to a halt, apprehensive. Forgetting something? Rowena motions to the captain and Helena sighs, smiling. With a flourish, she curtsies to Godric. It was very nice to meet you, Captain, and your hat. He stands and bows deeply to Helena. And you as well, Lady Helena. She exits. Godric takes his seat, watching Rowena closely as Rowena watches her daughter leave. She's beautiful, just like her mother. She gets her looks from her father's side. Not from where I'm sitting. Rowena shifts in her seat, not hiding how uncomfortable his words are to her. Godric quickly picks up on the tension. I'm sorry for my boldness. It's mildly inappropriate. My apologies. She goes back to speaking in Old French. I am surprised you know the meaning of the word. Godric replies in the same Old French. Which word? Mildly? Inappropriate or sorry? He goes back to his original accent. And no, I didn't steal the language from the nobles of West Francia, as I vanquished their coastline of sirens. Rowena retorts back. Clearly. Sounds like you picked up the language from an uneducated trollop. Hope she didn't cost you all of your blood money. For the first time, Godric narrows his expression at Rowena. For a woman as respectable as yourself to show less class than a benign lover from a land far, far away who poses no threat to you, today must really be the worst day of your life. I'm sorry my presence hasn't improved it in the slightest. Farewell, Professor Ravenclaw. I part your company in hopes that happiness will replace me. Godric Gryffindor exits, leaving Rowena to her bitterness. Fade to black.